They said I was just taking up space. After years of holding that family together, I became a burden in my own home. So I gave them exactly what they wanted: the house, the bills, the silence. Then I boarded a plane to Florida with nothing but a suitcase and my name. And for the first time in forever, I belonged to myself. I always thought I'd grow old with a little more dignity. Maybe not the kind that comes in pearls and pressed linens. I was never that type. But the kind that meant privacy, control over my thermostat, and the freedom to eat pancakes for dinner if I damn well pleased. When Tom called that Tuesday morning, I was folding towels in the laundry room, the warm kind that still smell like lavender if you press your face into them fast enough. I picked up on the third ring, hands still damp from the rinse cycle. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice stretched tight with something I couldn't name yet. "You got a minute?" I said yes, of course, because I always do. He said it was just temporary. A couple of months max, just until things stabilized. "Kinda like a pit stop," he said, like I was a gas station on the side of the highway of their lives. I didn't say that part out loud. I listened as he explained that the condo deal fell through, that the landlord was being a nightmare, that Kiki's new job didn't offer benefits yet, and they were bleeding rent money like a busted pipe. All this while I moved towels from washer to dryer. "We thought," he said, "maybe we could crash with you." Just until things settle crash, like it was a sleepover, like my home was still his basement with the weird carpet and the lava lamp. "Of course," I said, because what kind of mother says no to her grown son when he sounds that hopeful? They arrived 3 days later in a rented U-Haul. Even though they claimed they didn't have much, Kiki got out first, holding Maddie on her hip like a purse she wasn't quite sure went with the outfit. She smiled big and wide, like we were old college roommates reuniting. "You look so good, Nancy," she said, stepping in to kiss the air near my cheek. "Honestly, are you doing Pilates or something?" I didn't get a chance to answer before Tom came around the truck, hauling a plastic bin labeled Kitchen Essentials in purple marker. He didn't say hello, just gave a nod and said, "Where should I put this?" I told them the guest room was ready, fresh sheets and all. They looked surprised. I hadn't mentioned that I'd cleaned it out the day after the call, boxed up my quilting supplies, moved the twin beds together, found the baby gate in the attic. It's what you do when you expect company, I suppose, even when the company comes with debt and chaos, and a habit of calling you mom only when they need something. That first week, I played hostess. I made chicken pot pie from scratch. Maddie didn't eat the crust. Kiki praised my spice rack organization like it was a museum exhibit. Tom used my bathroom, even though they had their own. He said the water pressure in mine was just better. I told myself it was fine, temporary. By the second week, Kiki asked if she could tweak the curtains in the guest room. They were a little heavy for her taste. I said sure, even helped her take them down. She replaced them with sheer ones from Target, cheap fabric that let in too much light and none of the charm. But I didn't complain. She was just trying to make it homey, she said. They started doing their laundry on Sunday mornings, which had always been my quiet time. Tom took the car without asking. He said he was going to look at job sites. Came back with Starbucks. Kiki rearranged my spice rack, alphabetically. Then came the week Tom lost his temp gig. The mood shifted, like a ceiling fan clicking off. More meals at home, more electricity used, more silence that wasn't peaceful. I kept cooking, kept pretending. Maddie had started calling me Nans, which I pretended was cute, even though it sounded like a brand of adult diapers. One night, Kiki brought home scented candles and lit one in the kitchen. It smelled like cucumber and linen and something synthetic I couldn't name. I asked gently if we could skip candles near the stove. She smiled and said, "Oh, I forget how sensitive older noses can be." Older noses. The thing is, none of it was violent. None of it even felt cruel in the moment. But every little change came with the unspoken message: you don't matter as much as we do. Your routines, your space, your air, they're optional. We're the priority now. They didn't contribute much financially. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries. They paid with noise and energy and boxes that slowly crept into the garage, then the hallway closet, then under the stairs. They brought home a ping-pong table for family time. It's still in the box, leaning against the garage wall, like a reminder that good intentions mean nothing if no one lifts a hand. I started waking up earlier than usual, not because I had things to do, but because I needed the house to be quiet, just for a little while, just long enough to drink coffee the way I like it, hot, strong, undisturbed. I'd sit at the kitchen table while the sun rose behind the hedge. Tom still hadn't trimmed, and I'd pretend for 15 minutes that I was still the woman who owned her life. But those 15 minutes were getting shorter. One morning, Tom came in while I was making oatmeal. He opened the fridge, looked around, and said, "You're out of oat milk." "Kiki needs it for her smoothies." I told him it was behind the lasagna. He didn't thank me. He shut the fridge and said, "You might want to pick some up today." We've got a busy week. I watched him walk out, barefoot on the tile I'd mopped the night before. He didn't ask if I needed anything, didn't mention the utilities or the water bill, or the fact that my Social Security check was covering their lights and Wi-Fi. I stared at the oatmeal in the pot. It had thickened too much. I didn't want it anymore. I dumped it down the sink. It had been a little over 3 months since they moved in. Though Tom still insisted on calling it temporary, the word clung to every conversation like an air freshener that couldn't quite mask the rot underneath. Temporary, but his shoes lined the entryway like he paid the mortgage. Temporary, but Kiki's voice echoed through my living room during Zoom calls with her wellness brand team. Temporary, but I hadn't sat on my own couch with a cup of tea and a true sense of peace in weeks. That morning, I was supposed to fly to Tucson. A close friend from my old quilting group, Lorraine, was renewing her vows for her 70th birthday. Nothing extravagant, just close friends, a simple garden setup, catered sandwiches. She'd invited me months ago. I had even found the perfect cardigan to go with my navy dress. But Kiki knocked on my door the night before with that face, the one that meant she was about to smile while saying something that would erase my plans. "I know you're flying out tomorrow, but I just found out about a 2-day retreat in Asheville. Super last minute, but it's a big networking thing, and I need to be there. Could you watch, Maddie?" I stared at her for a second longer than I should have. I had already told them about the trip, twice. "I have a flight at 8. "Oh, I know," she said, brushing hair behind her ear like it was nothing. "But you said it wasn't that formal, right? I mean, Lorraine will understand." And honestly, Maddie's going through this attachment phase. I don't trust a sitter right now. I didn't answer. I just walked back into my room and sat down, fingers curling around the plane ticket I had printed out just in case. The word non-refundable glared up at me, so I didn't go. The next morning, while I spooned yogurt into a bowl for Maddie, I noticed a new name added to the Costco membership card on the kitchen counter. Kristen S. My name was still there, but the primary account holder had changed. I hadn't approved it. Later, I found the old envelope from Costco in the trash. She had signed me up for paperless billing and rerouted everything to her email. I didn't even know they could do that. That evening, Maddie toddled up and handed me a juice box with a crooked smile. "Here, Nans." Kiki was scrolling through her phone and laughed without looking up. "She started calling you that. Isn't it cute? Like, not Grandma, that's too old school." I nodded, but something caught in my throat. Not because of the nickname, but because even the name they gave me felt like a repackaging. Something to fit their lifestyle better, like those mesh laundry hampers they bought from IKEA and stuck in every room. Foldable, temporary. Later that week, I made beef stew from scratch, the kind Tom used to beg for in high school after football practice. When I called them for dinner, they came down 20 minutes late. Kiki picked at the carrots and said she was trying to go plant-based, but appreciated the effort. Tom took one bowl and said nothing, not even a nod. As we were cleaning up, Tom leaned against the counter, spooning out almond butter onto a rice cake, and said, "You know, Kiki and I were talking. It might make sense if you gave us a bit more flexibility with the car. It's just sitting in the driveway half the time. We could help with errands or doctor appointments if we had a second vehicle." I told him it was my only car. He shrugged. "Yeah, but you don't really go anywhere." I did go places. Not as much now, true, but that didn't mean I wanted to surrender mobility like it was optional. The next day, I tried to speak up. I asked Tom if they had looked at any rentals. He was in the middle of texting and barely looked up. "Why? This setup's working for everyone." "For everyone?" I repeated. He finally glanced up. "You don't pay for childcare. You get company. We're all saving money. It's a win-win." It wasn't a win-win. It was a takeover. Only I was the last one to read the memo. That same night, I overheard Kiki talking on the phone with one of her friends. Her voice carried through the air vent. "No, it's fine. Tom's mom's cool with it. She's kinda quiet. Doesn't really need much. She likes having people around." I think I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands. These hands had held Tom when he had chicken pox, had scraped gum off his sneakers, had baked 300 cookies for his second-grade bake sale. Now they folded his laundry and fetched oat milk. I decided to take back one small thing, just one. The next morning, I drove to the DMV and removed Tom's name from the emergency contact section of my license renewal. It was a stupid thing, maybe, but it was mine. When I got back, Maddie was watching cartoons in the living room, crumbs scattered like confetti. Tom was at the table on his laptop. He glanced up. "Hey, you pick up oat milk?" "I got what I needed," I said. He raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, cheap but decent, and sat on the porch for the first time in weeks. I watched the sun go down over the neighbor's fence. I didn't check my phone. I didn't cook dinner. Inside, I heard Tom say to Kiki, "She's been moody lately," and Kiki replied, "She'll adjust." She always does. That was the moment I knew. They didn't see me. They saw what I could give them. and they thought that would never run out. A week later, I walked into my own living room and didn't recognize it. The throw pillows were different, white and beige with stitched geometric lines. The kind of decor that looks like it belongs in a furniture catalog, not in the home where your son learned to walk. The bookshelf had been curated, according to Kiki. My mystery paperbacks were boxed and replaced with coffee table books about interior design and mindfulness, and the photograph of me and Bill on our trip to Yellowstone, our last one before his diagnosis, was gone. I found it 2 days later in the hall closet, tucked behind a stack of reusable tote bags. When I asked about it, Kiki didn't even look up from her phone. "It just didn't go with the flow," she said. "The flow," I repeated. "Yeah, like the vibe. I'm trying to create a calm, intentional space." I didn't argue. I just took the photo and put it back on the shelf in my room, next to the ceramic bird Maddie had broken and I'd glued back together. A little graveyard of things that no longer matched the flow. A few days after that, I walked into the kitchen and found Kiki rifling through my drawer of important documents, the one where I kept things like insurance forms and my passport. She looked up like I'd walked in on her clipping her toenails on the table. "Oh, sorry," she said. "I was just looking for a stamp. There's a whole box in the hallway cabinet." She laughed nervously. "I know, I just was already here." That afternoon, a thick envelope arrived from the bank. The logo on the front caught my attention immediately. I opened it and felt the air in my chest flatten. It was a confirmation for a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, a loan against the house, against my house. My name was on the paperwork, but I hadn't signed anything, not knowingly. I brought it to Tom that evening. He was on the back porch, barefoot, drinking one of the expensive kombuchas I didn't even know we had. "What is this?" I asked, holding the papers out. He took one glance and winced, like I'd caught him looking at something indecent. Then he sighed. "Okay, look," he said, "don't freak out. It's just a way to free up some funds. We're investing in some updates. The kitchen's way out of date, and the HVAC barely works. You've said it yourself. I didn't agree to this. I didn't sign anything. You did," he said quickly. "Remember that paperwork I asked you to initial? You said it was fine. I thought that was for a delivery address change." He looked at the sky and muttered something under his breath. "It's not a big deal, Mom. You're making it one. You're sitting on all this equity. You're not even using it. I live here," I said. "That's how I use it." He looked at me like I was being unreasonable, like I didn't understand how the world worked. "It's just a house," he said. "You don't have to be so precious. It's not like you're gonna do anything drastic." That word again, precious. Like I was being childish, sentimental, weak. I didn't say anything else. Just turned around and went inside. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with the HELOC documents fanned out like a deck of cards, rereading each line. Legalese and fine print blurred together, but I saw the numbers. I saw the debt. I saw the clause that said, "In event of default, property subject to lien." In the morning, I went to the bank. The woman behind the counter looked barely 30, all shellac nails and friendly script name tag. I slid the papers across the desk and said, "I didn't knowingly approve this. My son handled this without my understanding." She pursed her lips. "Did you sign here?" I initialed something. I was misled. She hesitated, then called in a manager. We sat in a cubicle for almost an hour. They couldn't do anything without a police report, they said. But they could freeze the disbursement of funds if I provided a sworn statement. I signed the form with a hand that shook harder than I wanted it to. When I got home, I told Tom I had gone to the bank. "You did what?" he said, stepping into the living room like I'd lit the drapes on fire. "I put a freeze on the loan." His face darkened. "Jesus, Mom, you don't trust me. You forged my signature." "I didn't forge it. I filled in the gaps. That's not the same." Kiki came in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Is this really necessary? You're making such a big deal out of a little help." "You went behind my back," I said, louder this time. Tom laughed, short and bitter. "You know what your problem is? You can't adapt. You don't get how things work now. Everything's about flexibility, resource sharing, collaboration." "This isn't a startup," I snapped. "It's my home." That's when it happened. He stepped forward, didn't raise his voice, didn't clench his fists, just looked at me, dead in the eye, and said, "You're acting like dead weight, Mom. You're not contributing. You're just taking up space." Dead weight. The words sat between us like wet cement. I didn't cry, not right then, not in front of him. I just nodded. "I see." And I turned away. Later that night, I stood in the dark in the kitchen, one hand on the fridge handle, the other on the cold glass of the countertop. The house around me buzzed with the hum of appliances and the faint sound of Kiki's show playing upstairs. Everything I had built, 40 years of payments, repairs, winters without heating, summers without air conditioning, birthdays, anniversaries, home-cooked meals. It was now just a resource to be extracted, something they could milk until it gave out. I poured a glass of water and took it back to my room. I didn't sleep. I sat up with the lamp on, staring at the deed to the house, and the insurance folder I'd kept updated since before Tom hit puberty. They called me dead weight. Fine. Let them see what it feels like to carry everything themselves. The next morning, I was waiting outside the police station before the doors unlocked. A man with a mop and a styrofoam cup gave me a look like I was lost. Maybe I was, but I knew where I needed to be. A young officer eventually led me to a desk, sat me down, and asked me to explain. I told him about the forged loan paperwork, about the initials I'd given in good faith, about the lies, the bank account I never consented to open, the equity being siphoned from under me. He nodded the way people do when they don't expect much to come of it. He took my statement and gave me a case number. When I asked what would happen next, he shrugged and said it would depend on the DA. Then he handed me a card with the name of an elder law attorney and said, "This lady helps a lot of folks like you. Might be worth a call." That afternoon, I called Kelly. Kelly is my daughter, younger than Tom by 8 years, sharper than a tack, and always just a little too honest for her own good. We hadn't spoken properly in over a year. The fallout had been small. An argument over politics, or maybe a comment I made about her tattoos. I can't even remember, but I remembered her number. And when she picked up, I didn't even say hello. "Hi, sweetheart. I need help." There was a pause, then her voice, calm but alert. "Tell me everything." By nightfall, she was at my door. Kelly pulled up in her dusty Subaru, still wearing her scrubs from the hospital. She hugged me tight, like we'd never been apart, then walked straight past Tom and Kiki in the living room with a look that could have frozen boiling water. Maddie ran up and clung to her leg. "Auntie Kelly!" Kelly scooped her up, kissed her cheek, and set her down. "Go play, sweet pea. Grown-ups need to talk." We sat in the kitchen. I handed her the paperwork, the case number, the loan confirmation, and a folder of bills I'd started keeping in a tote bag. Kelly read in silence, her jaw clenched tighter with every page. "They did this without your permission?" she asked finally. I nodded. "And they're still living here?" Again I nodded. She leaned back in the chair and crossed her arms. "That ends today." When we confronted Tom and Kiki that evening, I stood behind Kelly like backup at a crime scene. Tom tried to bluster through it, mumbling something about miscommunications and good intentions. Kelly didn't flinch. "You took money against Mom's house using forged documents," she said. "That's elder fraud. It's a felony," Tom scoffed. "Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. I work in a trauma ward, Tom. You know how many older people end up in shelters because of crap like this? Because their own families strip them clean and then leave them with nothing?" Kiki started to cry, but it felt rehearsed. She touched her temples like she had a headache and muttered something about not needing this kind of energy in the house. Kelly looked at me. "We're going to fix this." Over the next 3 days, we did just that. I hired a lawyer, not the local guy Tom had used before, but a new one, a woman named Clara with a voice like steel wool and a handshake like a vice. She filed paperwork to contest the HELOC, citing forgery. She contacted the bank's fraud division and froze the funds. She filed a cease and desist letter on my behalf. I also pulled up the property deed and had her review the ownership. I was still the sole title holder. No cosigner, no trust, just my name. And that meant I had options. While Clara handled the legal end, Kelly helped me move all my financial accounts to a different bank. We opened a new checking account, changed my Medicare auto debit, and set up text alerts for any new activity. She installed a camera doorbell just in case, and we added a basic alarm system with a code only we knew. Tom noticed the new locks the day after they were changed. I was drinking coffee at the kitchen table when he came in and jiggled the front door. "Did you change the locks?" "Yes." He blinked. "Why?" "Security." "You don't trust us?" I stirred my coffee. "I trust people who don't take things that aren't theirs." That evening, I sat on the porch with Kelly while Maddie played with chalk on the sidewalk. The air was finally cool again. Fall was coming. I could feel it in my joints. "You know," I said, "he told me I was dead weight." Kelly looked at me, face unreadable. "That's funny," she said, "because from where I'm sitting, you're the only one holding this place up." A beat passed. "Do you want to leave?" she asked. "Because we can make that happen." I looked out across the street at the house with the sagging gutters, the neighbor's cracked driveway, the mailboxes tilted like leaning tombstones. I thought about the garden I'd planted when Bill was alive, now overrun with weeds. About the cabinet where I'd kept his old baseball caps, now stuffed with Kiki's protein powder tubs. I think," I said slowly, "it's time I stopped paying for everyone else's life." Kelly didn't say anything, but she nodded once, firm, like a closing statement in a courtroom. That night, I opened the drawer where I kept my documents. The mortgage papers, the utility bills, my marriage certificate. I pulled out the deed, and I sat with it in my lap for over an hour, just running my fingers along the embossed seal. In the morning, I called Clara and said, "I'd like to explore transferring ownership." She said, "To who?" I smiled. "To the people who say it's their house. Let's see how they handle it when it actually is." Tom was in the kitchen when I came in with the envelope. It was thick, heavier than it looked, and sealed with a neat line of tape. Clara had prepared everything just like I asked. The deed transfer paperwork, the revised mortgage documents, the title changes, everything notarized, everything legal. He was eating peanut butter straight from the jar, leaning on the counter like a man who owned the world, or at least the piece of it he was standing on. "I need a minute," I said. He looked up, mouth full, and shrugged. "Sure." I laid the envelope on the table between us like it was a bomb, because in a way it was. He opened it, scanned the first page, and then again, slower this time. I watched the muscles in his jaw clench as he flipped through the pages. I said nothing. I wanted him to read every word himself. Let the truth arrive the long way. You transferred the mortgage." "To you," I said, "and the house title. It's yours now." He dropped the envelope on the table. "Wait, are you serious?" I nodded. "Dead serious. You said this setup was working for everyone. You've been living here, spending the money, making the decisions. So I decided to make it official. You want the house? It's yours." He stood up too fast and knocked the chair backward. "We can't afford this." "Then I suggest you look into getting a job." Kiki came in just then, holding her phone mid-scroll. "What's going on?" Tom turned to her, waving the envelope like it was a court summons. "She gave us the house." Kiki blinked, then laughed until she realized I wasn't laughing. "I don't get it," she said. We don't have the money to pay the mortgage, handle the taxes, fix the roof." "No, I didn't think you did. But you'll figure it out." Tom's face had gone red. "This is insane. You're doing this to punish us." "No," I said. "I'm doing this so I can leave. So I can breathe." The silence that followed was thick and ugly. Kiki sat down slowly, as if trying to make it go away with stillness. Tom picked the paperwork back up and flipped through it again, hoping the ending had changed. It hadn't. "I don't know what we're supposed to do with this," he said. "Exactly what I've been doing. Keeping the lights on, paying the mortgage, making sure your daughter has clean clothes and food on the table." He shook his head. "You can't just dump this on us." "You called me dead weight, Tom. Said I was just taking up space. Well, now that space is yours, fully and legally." I didn't mean it like that. I tilted my head, but you meant it. Kelly pulled into the driveway 10 minutes later. She honked once, didn't get out of the car. I had packed 2 bags that morning, one with clothes, one with my photo albums, and the last jar of Bill's homemade apple butter. My bank cards were switched. My mail was rerouted. My name was off the mortgage. Everything else I left behind. As I walked to the door, Kiki followed me. "Nancy," she said, low and urgent, "be reasonable. Maddie loves you. This is going to mess her up." I stopped with one hand on the doorknob. What's messing her up is watching her parents treat someone who loves them like a burden. Fix that Tom didn't say anything. He stood in the kitchen doorway like a man who'd just learned the water bill was overdue and the pipes were already frozen. I didn't look back. In the car, Kelly didn't ask any questions. She turned the radio on low and handed me a bottle of water. We drove in silence for a while. I kept expecting to cry, or shake, or second guess, but I didn't. I just watched the houses pass, one by one, all of them holding their own secrets and debts and mothers who hadn't yet packed their bags. "Oh, where to?" she asked eventually. "Airport," I said. She looked over. "You serious?" "I booked a ticket this morning, Fort Myers, rented a condo near the water." Kelly grinned and shook her head. "You waited way too long to do this." "I know," I said. But I'm not waiting anymore." As the car merged onto the interstate, I thought about the backyard garden I never got to revive, the spare room that still smelled like paint from Kiki's rebrand, the ceramic mugs I left behind because they never felt like mine anymore. I didn't feel sad. I felt empty in a good way, like an old house after a deep clean, like a suitcase ready to be packed with whatever comes next. My new apartment isn't big. One bedroom, a little galley kitchen, a balcony just wide enough for 2 chairs, and a table that wobbles if you lean on it wrong. But it's mine. The lease is in my name. The bills come straight to me. And when I unlock the door at the end of the day, the air smells like lemon-scented cleaner and salt from the Gulf breeze, not someone else's leftover lunch. I wake up early most mornings, not because I have to, but because I want to. There's a market down the street that sells fresh mangoes, still warm from the sun, and the woman behind the register always calls me darlin', like it's the most natural thing in the world. I joined a watercolor class at the community center. Most of the other women are widows like me. We paint sea turtles and palms, drink iced tea from styrofoam cups, and pretend not to judge each other's shading. There's a man named Frank who sells homemade jewelry on the pier. He has eyes like driftwood and smells like cedar oil. He asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. I just smiled and told him I'd think about it. Sometimes, when I'm sitting on the balcony with a book and the fan humming behind me, I think about Tom, about Maddie, about that damn ping-pong table still boxed in the garage. I wonder if they ever opened it. I wonder if they sold the house, or if they're drowning in late fees and regret. I don't wonder too long. I've gotten good at steering my mind away from potholes. About a month after I moved, I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just my name scrawled in the shaky handwriting of a child. Inside was a drawing, Maddie's clearly. 3 stick figures holding hands, one with gray hair and a purple dress. Underneath, in crooked, careful letters, Miss You, Nans. I stared at it for a long time, not crying, just holding it, like it was made of something too delicate to fold. I pinned it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a flamingo. Kelly comes down once a month. We eat fried shrimp by the water and laugh about nothing. She brought me a beach umbrella last time, said it matched my sass. I told her sass comes with age, like arthritis and decent wine preferences. One evening, I stood in the surf with the hem of my pants rolled up and the sky turning orange like it was blushing. The water lapped at my ankles, warm and slow. A boy chased a seagull, squealing with delight. Somewhere behind me, a radio played an old country song I hadn't heard in years, and I thought, this is mine. Not borrowed, not shared, not taken for granted. Mine. I'm not dead weight. I'm not a placeholder. I'm not a burden tucked into the margins of someone else's life. I am a woman who started over at nearly 70. And damn it, I smile now without permission.